the weekly show, everybody. It's great to be back with you here today. And thank you for your comments, your questions. If those of you have asked how your child or you can work with me, contact us in the comments or contact us at www.educationandinspiration.com. Leave a form and we'll get back to you. But it's so good to be here with all of you today. And today we're going to be focused on the medical school application process and amazing topic I want to talk about. So many of my students who work with me in college have gotten into great medical schools, and I've led them through the essay writing and AAMC application process for medical school. And one of the most prominent questions is that parents and students who are in college ask me is, Mr. Buffer, what can I do while I'm in college early on to distinguish myself in the medical school process? And of course, what are some things I can do on my own to prepare and get a great score on the MCAT? As an MCAT teacher, I often tell students that because we do prep here at my center for MCAT, and I teach MCAT, I often say, unfortunately, your school classes will give you a great look at a lot of major topics you need for the MCAT. But you need to do reading and study outside of class to solidify that knowledge and fill in the gaps. And we're going to focus today mostly on the MCAT psychology and behavioral section, often in short called the MCAT psychology section. And we're going to talk about a topic you can use that you can learn more about while in college to help you both do better on the MCAT and build a stronger application for medical school. And that topic is epigenetics. What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is a topic in the medical field of biology that studies how environmental factors, how they influence gene expression. And despite DNA sequence, they don't change a person's DNA sequence, but epigenetics studies how environmental factors such as stress, diet, trauma, even someone's belief systems can switch on or switch off certain genes. It's often epigenetics tries to answer the question, can two people have a gene for alcoholism, for diabetes, even for cancer, and one person gets cancer or gets or falls prey to alcoholism, and epigenetics answers that. And it's really a central component to understanding how health conditions like cancer, mental health disorders, and even obesity play out in certain people, and certain people they don't, okay? And as a college student, even as a high school student, starting to learn about this, but as a college student preparing for the application to medical school, when you apply to medical school, if you can show your passion for and interest in epigenetics and understanding it, it can help you develop an understanding of something that literally is cutting edge and becoming increasingly more cutting edge, okay? And it really helps you, it really connects genetics, which we all have a basis of, and it connects it to real world problems, like why identical twins with the same DNA might develop differently based on their environments. And as I've talked about in previous shows, it is a pervasive and constant part of every social science and in the medical field, the nature versus nurture debate. What part of what we all experience in our lives, medically, socially, in all aspects of our lives, psychologically, interpersonally, what comes from our nature and what is the result of our nurture. And as I've mentioned, most prominent researchers and leading thought leaders, and I agree with them, believe that it's always a combination of the two. But epigenetics, of course, helps to understand the nurture component of this debate and this dilemma of the nature versus nurture debate of what components and to what extent do environmental factors affect our gene expressions, okay? And you expressing your interest in studying this, and even showing how you've researched it in college, how you've done research papers on it in college, how you have explored it through different means, getting involved in lab research or in clinical studies that examine epigenetics will be very impressive to medical schools, showing that you want to come to medical school and explore this further and integrate it into your practice. because it really shows a strong understanding of you wanting to personalize medicine and showing that you will treat each client, each patient you have in the future, and you want to learn how to treat them as an individual and see how their environmental factors play into their health outcomes. For example, it has been shown sickle cell anemia has been something that has affected the African American community. The Ashkenazi Jewish community have been more prone to certain medical conditions, and the list can go on. And you understanding this, that besides the genetic factors that play into those groups and others, social factors, social determinants of health, such as poverty, stress, the way people might feel treated in society, their self-concept, all of this can have an epigenetic effect on their well-being and their mental health and their medical outcomes and their medical health. So you taking classes in genetics and biology that touch on epigenetics, exploring it further and showing this in your essays, showing how epigenetics plays into social determinants of health, will make you stand out in the medical admissions process. There are so many studies that, famous example in world history, during the Holocaust, when the Nazis invaded certain countries, invaded the Netherlands in 1944, the Dutch hunger winter, it was called, where women went through terrible hunger conditions during the Holocaust. Later on, their offspring, their children, had worse medical conditions and obesity and other stress-related diseases, all the result of the social and environmental conditions they experienced during the Holocaust. This was something that affected their children's health and in subsequent generations. So this is an example of how epigenetics affected gene expressions in those women and affected generations. And you understanding things like that and showing how you want to apply that knowledge to help health outcomes in society is amazing. Working in underserved communities and in clinics while you're in college and applying to medical, before you apply to medical school, while you're applying to medical school, shows that you have an understanding of epigenetic factors and how they could affect health outcomes, and how talking about in your essays, in your interviews, how you want to be a doctor that takes stock of this in your practice will make a huge difference in interviews and the process. Even engaging in independent research through in epigenetics will be amazing for your application. And citing, if your ability in your interview, I've had my students who've cited public health data in the interviews of epigenetic factors have gotten into the better medical schools. One of my students recently got into Tufts Medical School last year, citing these epigenetic factors in her interviews, her essays, and showing how she engaged in it in research. And I know they loved it in her interviews. Okay? So top medical schools love when and research programs love when students can show how they're really thinking about modern science and its application, the connections to epigenetics, not just thinking of health outcomes in terms of nature and genetic coding. Really understanding how all these factors play in, and going into your interview and citing this in your medical applications, your belief in it and understanding of epigenetics will, and the effect of health outcomes. The big thing, if you see in society today, people who lived in Michigan, poor communities exposed to terrible water conditions, drinking water. There's been amazing connections shown to public health and the diseases many people living in those Michigan area have unfortunately had to undertake and have been stricken with. And that's an understanding of epigenetic factors, and showing as a future medical practitioner your interest in helping clients become aware of this and making a difference in epigenetic factors will be huge. So again, it's not just medical schools. If you're an undergrad, if you're a high school student, understanding this, that liberal arts colleges even love students who connect science to social issues. And for those of you listening in college and applying to medical schools, definitely, if you're at a liberal arts college, want to apply to medical school, still showing how you understand do research on social determinants of health, show your compassion for and understanding of how factors that affect medical outcomes socially in an epigenetic manner can give you a huge edge when applying to medical school. Okay, really important. And the big trend in society today that medical schools are really wanting their applicants to be aware of is not just equality, because equality can never happen perfectly in medical care. There's always going to be people that have access to better care, but increasing equity, making things as equitable as possible. Remember, I always say the fire department treats everyone equitably. The fire department comes to your house with full force, the best hoses they can, no matter if you're a billionaire or if you're not a billionaire, if you're someone of limited means. Health outcomes are not as equitable, and you as a medical physician, understanding epigenetics, you can help things become more equitable by informing patients of epigenetic factors they should be aware of and how they can affect them. And also you as a doctor getting involved in research, public health research, translational medicine, being involved with such matters that can change outcomes for public health and in an epigenetic matter, combining it with knowledge of social determinants of health and using it for translational medicine to bridge that gap between the lab and real world outcomes. So I hope those of you listening right now who are in college and want to apply to medical school, those of you, or even those of you in high school that want to apply to a pre-med program or 7-year program, I work with so many students in both, understanding epigenetics and how it can give you an edge in admissions, and by demonstrating your empathy, your awareness of public health, your awareness of how medical outcomes is more than genetics, and so many social factors and epigenetic factors play into it, will give you an amazing advantage, both in admissions and as a future medical professional. Our society needs more medical professionals who are aware of these factors, of epigenetic factors. So again, hope this was helpful to you, and it was so good to be here with all of you, and thank you again for your feedback, and if you're listening, please subscribe so you can keep getting these shows in your inbox to help you give you or your loved ones an admissions edge applying to college and medical school. Epigenetics is a cutting edge topic. It is something that top medical professionals are aware of, thought leaders are aware of. Join that trend, get on that train, and you'll give yourself and your future patients a great advantage. Thank you for being with me today. I look forward to being with you all soon. Have a fantastic day.